Hello everybody, welcome back to Rain and Pours. I'm Mitch and today I am doing a cherry blossom inspired set of coasters. These coasters are inspired by a picture that Lisa Marvin sent me. Lisa is my good friend. Please check out her channel at Lisa Marvin Art. All over social. She's on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. Give us some love. I know she gives me love all the time. I love her so much. So today this is a cherry blossom colored set of coasters, and I'm going to start off today's video with mixing up some piggies. So I'm going to show you how I mix up my piggies, and then we'll get into the pour and I'll explain the other colors. Actually, I'm going to explain the colors first. Stuff it. So colors I'm going to be using today is Matisse Australian Red Violet. I have This Little Piggy Rose Quartz. I have Matisse Ash Pink. This is a very opaque color, so it'll block out any of the light coming from underneath. I have This Little Piggy Latte. I have Triart Rose Gold in the liquid form. So this was the Triart Liquid Rose Gold. That is this one. These are super pigmented paints. Really love them. So I used only the tiniest bit to color this. And then I'm going to mix up This Little Piggy Rosé and This Little Piggy Ballet Slipper. Now this was a spur of the moment color choice. I was going to use Athena and Venus, and I decided against them because I thought Rosé and Ballet Slipper would look better. So it's a very sort of monotone, or monochrome I should say, color palette, but I'm going to show you how I mix up my piggies. So I'm going to take my pigment, and this one is Rosé, and I'm going to put about a Fluid Art Co mixing stick worth of pigment in there, maybe a little bit more. The key with this is not to be shy. Don't be shy with your pigment. The more you add, the more vibrant it's going to be. However, there is a point where you're going to reach saturation point, and there's not going to be any point adding much more pigment. And I find for these little baby cups that the saturation point is about 1 Fluid Art Co spoon worth for the lighter color pigments, and for the darker ones, you may need to add 2 or possibly 3. Now, these pigments do go a very long way, so don't be afraid to use them. And at the end of the day, you can always buy more, right? So I'm now going to put in my ballet slipper. And again, good amount. And that's going to be plenty for the entire jar. Now we're going to add Jo Sonja gloss varnish. So I've got a teeny tiny little bottle here. This is what the Jo Sonja gloss varnish looks like. Okay, it's a green label with silver on there, and I've just poured into a Fluid Art Co pouring bottle because it's much easier to dish out. Now, how much do you add? You add just enough to wet your pigment. So it's almost equal parts pigment to varnish, but it does depend on the pigment because neons will take a little bit more. They do clump up a little bit when you're mixing them, so they are best to mix, let them sit overnight to absorb all of that varnish, and then mix it again the next day. You can also dilute these with isopropyl alcohol in what Mina calls her drunken piggy recipe, or you can use a tiny splash of water. Whoop. You have to be very careful when you're mixing pigment not to do that, like I just did, and spray, you know, dry pigment everywhere because it can get in your face. And it is always advised to wear a mask when mixing pigments because you don't want to get these in your lungs. I keep them well away from my face so that I'm not at risk of breathing them in. And I run an air purifier in my studio as well. So you should end up with a nice colored paste. Next step is to get your untinted house paint or whatever paint you are using. So as long as you are using an acrylic medium, you can use the varnish to dilute. If you're doing this for resin, I would advise using isopropyl alcohol to make your paste. So now I'm just gonna clean up this pigment that I've sprayed everywhere because that was a dick move. Okay, get that in the bin, and you can see, look, just that little bit of pigment that blew up everywhere, it's stained that bright pink from the rosé. So I'm going to grab myself a piggy paddle. So Fluid Art Co has 2 types of mixing sticks. We've got the little short bladed ones. These are awesome for these baby cups getting into all the corners. And we have the piggy paddles. I use these for mixing up my resin. They're nice and sturdy. Really awesome. Oh, I'm struggling with this camera. I don't know which way is which. So I'm going to stir up my untinted house paint. So depending on where you are in the world, this will be different. I am very lucky. I managed to get myself some tubs of the old Taubman's pouring medium here in Australia. However, if you are using the new one, you will need 50-50, so 2 equal parts of the Taubman's all walls interior paint in neutral, in semi-gloss. And then you will need the Taubman's water-based enamel, which is also an interior paint, in neutral, and that one also in semi-gloss. Now, the reason we want semi-gloss is because glossy paints will affect your cell activator and how your cells form. So part of using the semi-gloss is that we can moderate how much gloss we add by adding the varnish ourselves. So once that's added, and I've just added about half the cup, I'm going to give that a really good mix. And something to consider when you're mixing pigments or even paints is that if they are thicker or if they need diluting, you always want to do that first and then gradually mix in your thicker paint like you're making a gravy. And you can see really quickly, I should get my hand out of the way, right? Really quickly, those paints come together and you end up with a beautiful mixed paint. Okay, so remember to scrape the bottom of everything. And this will be quite thick. I am going to top these up because I don't replace colors very often. I do tend to just top them up, but I was completely out of these two. So give them a really good mix. And the untinted paint, as long as it dries clear, so you can do a swatch test by grabbing a piece of brown paper and just smearing a little bit of that pouring medium on there, put a little dollop, and then seeing how it dries, and you'll be able to tell if it dries clear or if it has titanium white in it. You do not want the titanium white because that will dull all of your colors. So give them a really good mix, and there we go, we're ready to use. Okay, so I've spent enough time talking on this. Let's get our color palette down and get pouring. All right, so I've taped up all my coasters and my wooden board, and we are ready to get pouring. So I'm going to focus my camera so that we can get everything nice and in shot. Okie dokie, so I've got my top down. I've got my side camera. How's that going? Awesome. Okay, let's get started. So I'll go through the colors again. We have Matisse Australian Red Violet, and then I have Matisse Ash Pink. Those are my tube paints. Then from This Little Piggy, I have Rose Quartz, which is the Interference Red. We have Latte, Ballet Slipper, Rosé, and this one here is Triart Rose Gold. So let's give this color palette a go. I'm going to be using my titanium white cell activator for this one, and I want this to be a nice delicate little bloom. I do also actually have This Little Piggy Pinot Gris mixed up as a cell activator, and that could be really interesting to have that touch of flash green, so that interference green in contrast with the pinks. So we're going to do a little experiment and see what we like better. Yeah, that's really pretty. Okay, I'm down for that. Let's play around a little bit. Okay, first thing that goes down is our white pillow. The white pillow that I am using is the British Paints Low Sheen Interior in white. First thing I always do is put down a little droplet of paint and spread that out. That's going to act as suction underneath the coaster and hold it down so it don't fly off. And then I'm going to put a little bit on top, and you put down about 2/3 of the coaster worth of paint. This goes for any sized painting. 2/3 of the painting, cover it with your pillow paint and you'll be sweet. You'll have enough paint on there. First color I want to put down is the Matisse Australian Red Violet. Why? Because that's the color that's going to show up in the middle, and that's the color I want to be that contrast between everything. Next, on top of that, I want to do Rose Quartz. I want to see a little bit of interference red over the top. Then I want Triart Rose Gold. Triart Rose Gold is really pretty. It's such a smooth blended paint. On top of Triart Rose Gold, we're going to go with Rosé. Again, deeper colors on the bottom. Then I think I want Ash Pink. That's going to provide some cells and contrast. constantly checking the consistency of your paint as you go. Not too much ash pink because it is opaque and it will drown out the colors underneath, so we just want it there to create those beautiful cells. Then latte, a little bit of that, and I want to top this off with ballet slipper. So let's give it a good stir and get that on there. Cool, so it doesn't look like it's a high contrast mix, but we're going to put our cell activator on, blow this out, and see what happens. All right, let's go with the green. All right, we'll give that a chance to cell up. Piggy cell activators and cell activators that are made with unconventional means can take a little bit of time to cell up, especially if you're using metallics. So just give them a second, they'll do their thing. You just have to wait, and they will make more cells as you stretch the paint out. So I'm going to grab a waste cup so I can put all my drippings and scrapings into that. So I just use little plastic cups for that. You can use paper cups, doesn't really matter. And I'm going to rotate this with the wooden coasters. I do want to make sure all of the sides are covered. Scrape up any excess, and that will go into pillow. Give it a good spin, and let's see what happens. Now, the color combination is super, super pretty. And I don't know if you can see it, but the color shift in the pigment in the cell activator is gorgeous. But I think I want to put white down underneath it. I'm also going to change up the layering just slightly with how much I'm putting down, because the red violet is taking over and I don't want that. I want it to be cherry blossom style. So, problem with using contact paper on the bottom of these is they are incredibly slippery. Not like tape, they've got a little bit of grip. But there is our first coaster, and that cell activator will develop as it sits. It is very beautiful. I will show you a close-up at the end. But let's do our second one. Let's try slightly different layering. Or same layering, just different amounts. Red violet, tiny amount of that. Then we did rose quartz. And you do want to make sure that you are checking the consistency of all of your paints as you pour. They thicken up very, very, very quickly. There we go, rose quartz. Then we did rose gold. I don't think we did rose gold, I think we did rosé, but I'm going to do rose gold next. Then rosé. And because these paints are only just mixed, for some reason when you just mix them, they will thicken up more quickly as you pour, compared to letting them sit for a day or two. Plenty of rosé, nice warm colour. The ash pink. Latte. And finally, ballet slipper. I don't use ballet slipper enough, and I love the color. It is such a beautiful, it's the exact color of a ballet slipper. If you've ever seen ballet shoes, and being a dancer, my sister had these, broken them in, point shoes. It's the exact color of them. When I saw that color, I was like, yes, perfect. Okay, this time we're going to put down our white cell activator first with the Pinot Gris green on top. And let's see if we get some different shaped cells. That cell activator does also look a little bit thick, so that could be the problem. I think that's it. I think the cell activator is just a touch thick. Just get my Floetrol all shook up, and I'm going to thin that down. I did mix these up months ago, so it's no surprise. Just get that a little bit thinner, and we'll see how that goes. But you can see adding the white underneath has already changed the shape of the cells. They're much more bubbly. Okay, we'll see how that goes. I've added just a little bit of Floetrol to my green. The Pinot Gris. Okay, scrape up the excess. Really important that I do this, otherwise paint will fly everywhere. And that's part of the beauty of my little spinner setup here, is that I can do that because I've got a silicone mat on top. Beautiful. So I'm going to go for a Lisa Marvin style big bloom with the petals showing when I do the big piece and see what happens. But so far, the colour combo is really pretty. We've got the deep burgundy from the Australian red violet. Then we've got all those beautiful piggies shimmering in there as well. I should mention, if you want to buy any of the little piggy pigments that I've been using today, you can get those at fluid-art.co. And if you'd like to learn how to bloom like I'm doing, head to sheleeart.com.au and purchase Shelee's course. So I have this one set up. I do need to bring it over slightly so it's in the close-up camera. Fantastic. And I'll make sure that that is focused. All right, we're going to keep on rolling. So let's get this one painted. So sorry if it's off center a little bit. But let's go with our white. Now the aim for this one is I want to get those petals, so I'm going to put down a smaller amount of paint than I normally would because I want to keep the petals. I want them to be nicely blown out and covering the piece, but I want to keep the petals on there. Okay, so I'm going to spin this out a little bit first just to make sure it's nice and even. And then let's go with the same, same layering order, I think. A little bit of red violet, tiny bit. Then this time I'll put try out rose gold. That's what happens when your brain shuts down. It just goes new. The rose quartz. Then I will put the rosé down here. Matisse Ash Pink. I'm going to skip Latte and go straight to Ballet Slipper, because I've figured out that Latte and Ballet Slipper are very similar. Ballet Slipper is warmer, but the Latte doesn't have that gold shift, but I didn't want the Latte. It's globbing up and I don't like that. Okay, trying to get rid of just any little dots that are going to affect everything. Then let's try our white cell activator. And our Pinot Gris cell activator. Let's give it a blowout. All right, this might be difficult. I was trying for only 5 petals, like a cherry blossom, but that failed. All right, let's see. do really like this. It is very pretty. Let's see what happens when we spin it out. Hopefully we get some watercolory bloom effects. It is very pretty straight off. Definitely had enough pillow paint on there, so it's stretching nicely. I think I'm going to move it slightly this way so that all the paint moves this direction. So I don't want to lose too much of those end petals. Over this way. Ow. A bit more to this direction. Perfect. Okay, now let's spin it out nice and centered. We're going to get most of this design off so that we don't crack the painting as it dries. So if you leave too much paint on, your painting will crack, especially with house paint. This is such a pretty color scheme. I'm very, very happy with this. One more big spin. And this baby is done. Oh, ballet slipper is such a nice color, especially over that Australian red violet. And actually, I think Australian red violet and ballet slipper would make a beautiful color combination just by themselves. I don't know if you can see that color shift there. It's not even a color shift, it's just that sparkle coming to life. But it is super, super beautiful. Alright, I'm going to end this video here. We'll come back next week and I will do some black ones. If you like what I'm doing here, don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Bye.